Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with your hosts, Bigz and Grindberg. Grindberg and Bigz. I am Bigz. He is Grindberg. We are here to help you make a champion out of your fantasy football team and or teams. Producer, hit it. Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Bigz on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I want to let it be known here on this Thursday, March 28th, regardless of whenever this episode comes out, that intro video, I wanted Raining Blood by Slayer to be our theme song, but copyright infringement, because we don't have the licensing fees. So anyway, that's it. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for hopping in. Go ahead and like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things, comment. Find us on Twitter. I'm at BigBonedFFB on Twitter. He is FFCanuck99. That's CANUCK. That means he's Canadian.
Canadian.
And yeah, find us and talk to us. We're here to talk. This show is our second show. This is the Rookie Spotlight. Now we're discussing two rookies tonight, whatever your time zone is. I don't know where you're at. Are you in Canada? Are you in the UK? Are you in hell in NorCal? But we just had a bunch of pro days that popped off today. Washington, yesterday LSU, and we're here to talk about LSU. And there are two guys that basically in tandem put together one of the most incredible offensive performances we've ever seen in a college football season. And we will tell you what's happening with them as you get into your draft prep, get ready to watch the NFL draft because that's an exciting show, and then kind of follow along and get ready for your drafting season in a few months. So we will be talking about Jayden Daniels, quarterback from LSU, and Malik Nabers, wide receiver from LSU.
Yeah, so these guys are kind of like the consensus number two guys in the quarterback situation and the wide receiver situation. And, some of them are being, they're being referred to as kind of like the 1A and 1B in both situations,
as far as rookies.
As far as rookies go, absolutely. And that's what we're here to do, folks, because, we are in a redraft show here and we're talking about rookies because this is important now. This is where, you guys have gone through last year. You guys know what happened last year. So now it's about bringing fresh meat in here, fresh blood. We got to go over the free agents, but now we're looking at the rookies, and these are two rookies that really popped off the page yesterday and improved their situation. And we're going to dig deep into them. So we're going to start, and I'm going to play.
So why don't you go and tell the people all about Malik Nabers, Mike?
I will. And Malik Nabers, what a day he had yesterday. And he didn't test at the combine, which is pretty normal for, the top guys in each category outside of the running backs, because this running back class is very, very even, and there's not a front runner in there right now. But as far as the quarterbacks and the wide receivers go, there was a handful of them that didn't show out at the combine, and for good reason. But this LSU Pro Day was a pretty spectacular thing to see if you were able to tune into it. Malik Nabers would be the top wide receiver in most classes in the past decade. And some people are actually putting Malik Nabers even ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. And after his pro day yesterday, I have Malik Nabers as my 1B to Marvin Harrison's 1A. After yesterday, that hype is only going to get bigger. At LSU's Pro Day, Nabers showed out. He measured exactly where he needed to be and is close to your top tier talent as they come. Nabers is ready to dominate at the NFL level. He measured in at just over 6 feet and 199 pounds. He ran a 4.35 40-yard dash and had a 42-inch vertical leap. Man, registered at a 10'9" broad jump, pretty similar size as like metrics as former LSU alumni Jamar Chase. However, Nabers surpassed Chase in almost every category at the pro day yesterday. So Nabers also had an amazing 2023 season at LSU and was clearly the feature piece of that offense. And he was ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. 89 receptions, 1,569 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Malik Nabers is a featured part, and he will be a featured part in any NFL offense he gets into. Thanks to his physicality, his speed, his footwork, he should immediately be utilized as a team's alpha wide receiver with quality target volume. Nabers is a strong body with long arms and is able to extend that wingspan and get those tough to catch balls. Although his route tree wasn't that extensive at LSU, he has shown that he can play all over the field. If a D-back can keep up with him on the line, good luck catching him in the open field when he gets the ball in his hands. He's going to be tough to tackle. He is got it all. Nabers is a great separator. His yards after the catch is special. Nabers can turn a 2-yard play into 20-yard play with his exceptional ability to gain yards after the catch. A great mix of size and speed. Nabers is a threat all over the field. His yards per route run is elite, behind only Marvin Harrison Jr. His first downs per route run is ranked second in this class, only behind Marvin Harrison Jr. These two guys are splitting hairs here. You are likely going to see similar career trajectories for these two alphas, but I can see both of them being top 10 wide receivers in the foreseeable future. I'm starting to lean, and after this pro day, Nabers is envisioning him costing a lot less than Marvin Harrison will. So for a very similar profile as far as where they're going to see them as successfulness in the NFL, I'm just going. I'm almost at that point where I'm going to take Nabers just because of that discount if they end up being very similar in their careers. What do you think about that, Biggs?
Well, I'm going to split some hairs right here. So It's interesting that you call them the 1A and the 1B, with Harrison being the 1A. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Malik Nabers is the actual 1A in this scenario. So there's a reason to my madness. Number one, what we're talking about here is where we're valuing guys in a draft. And it's going to be more expensive because Marvin Harrison Jr. has the hype. It's going to be more expensive to roster him. So if you wait and take Malik Nabers later, you're going to get an equivalent wide receiver, but you're also going to be able to draft somebody in the Marvin Harrison Jr. range at running back or at quarterback who's going to give you an advantage in points. Meanwhile, dropping back and grabbing Malik Nabers, getting those points, which are going to be basically the same. Okay. That's as long as the Marvin Harrison Jr. Steam continues. But I feel like shows like this over the course of the next couple months are going to steam up Malik Nabers to the point where they're going to go bang, bang in your drafts. Now, the reason that I say that, and again, I said there's a method to my madness. As you pointed out, Malik Nabers was second behind Marvin Harrison Jr. in first downs per route run. He was second in total yards per route run. Now, in the class, out of 24 wide receivers in the class that we looked at, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the leader in yards per route run against man coverage. And then Malik Nabers is number 4. Against zone coverage, Malik Nabers is the second best wide receiver in the class, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is 4th. And then when we look at yards after the catch per reception, that means catching the ball, eluding defenders, getting out into the open field, and using your speed. Malik Nabers came in at 3rd in the class, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was all the way down to 18th. When we look at missed tackles forced per reception, which is another indicator of the ability to create after the catch, Malik Nabers was the leader of the rookie class in that position or in that stat. And Marvin Harrison Jr. was all the way down to 19th. So by all metrics, Malik Nabers is right there at the top. By some metrics, so is Marvin Harrison Jr. But by others, he falls all the way down close to the bottom. So I have zero problem taking Malik Nabers instead of Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's what we're here to do, is to give you guys that information so that you can make a better team.
Awesome. Good insight, Bigz. Now, let's get into Biggs' spotlight here, folks.
All right, well, producer was quick on the trigger with that video. I don't know if you can tell. Maybe it's the Kenny Stabler signed football behind me, or the Raiders flag, Raider Nation that I sit in front of. But I'm a fan of the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Las Vegas Raiders have a coach named Antonio Pierce, who's the new head coach, first-year head coach. And he was the head coach at Arizona State University. And when he was there, the starting quarterback for Arizona State was a kid named Jayden Daniels. All right, so there's a relationship. Jayden Daniels goes out and produces one of the historic top 6 fantasy points for college players seasons in history, and puts himself on the map at LSU, goes out and wins the Heisman Trophy. All right, so basically that relationship with Antonio Pierce and his performance last year has everybody in Raiderland thinking Jayden Daniels is a perfect fit for Antonio Pierce to jump up in the draft and draft him. And I've been waffling back and forth. I stated on another show a couple weeks ago that there was one thing that I was going to be looking at as far as Jayden Daniels was concerned, and that was his weight. So he had measures anywhere from 189 pounds to 210 pounds. 210 was his listed weight. But he had been playing at 189 at a certain point, and then he didn't weigh in at the combine. So one of the things that I was kind of hesitant about with Daniels was how big he was actually going to be when he got to his pro day and got weighed. And there's an interesting stat that there has never been fantasy success by any quarterback in the history of the NFL who weighed less than 205 pounds. In fact, guys that are smaller than that really don't ever have sustained careers in the NFL, let alone fantasy relevant statistical seasons. So that was something that I was looking for. I wanted Jayden Daniels to weigh in at over 205 pounds. And guess what? Jayden Daniels weighed in at 210 pounds. Boom! On the scene. He is now my quarterback 2 in the class, and we will get into that in a second. All right, so he is in the 94th percentile of breakout age. And breakout age is the age in which somebody enters the college football space and becomes a top tier player. And Jayden Daniels did that at Arizona State as a freshman. Okay. That year, he had a 17-2 touchdown to interception ratio, and he rushed for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns. So 20 touchdowns as a freshman, in the 94th percentile as a breakout age. The other stat that's interesting to me is in his career, he has a total of 3,307 rushing yards. Well, what we're looking for at the quarterback position in this day and age is somebody who has the rushing ability to create a very, very high floor in fantasy. It's one of the things that makes Justin Fields, or made Justin Fields before he became a backup, made Justin Fields as a starter relevant in the fantasy football discussion, even though in real life football, he wasn't very good. He had that rushing upside, and that's what provides points. It's kind of a cheat code, if you will. Okay, so Jayden Daniels, 210 pounds. He has been tracked, according to Next Gen Stats, faster than Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. That's pretty significant. He had a higher passing efficiency and more total yards per game than any player that has ever won the Heisman. Now, obviously, you have, some there is a graveyard of people who won the Heisman and didn't pan out in the NFL. Johnny Manziel. But of that group, Jayden Daniels had the highest passing efficiency and more total yards per game than any other player in 2023. He's also the only quarterback in college history with 12,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards in a career, and averaging 350 passing yards and 200 rushing yards in a game. If he did that. So if he does that in the NFL, can you imagine what your quarterback is going to do or what your team's going to do if your quarterback rushes for 200 yards in a game?
Oh, God. Yeah, totally.
That's crazy. So with his production level and the floor that's provided by his rushing ability, I would have zero problem ranking him in redraft right behind Anthony Richardson. If you really get down to it, Jayden Daniels has played more reps than Anthony Richardson. He's less of an unfinished project.
Yeah.
Green. Wherever you're going to draft Anthony Richardson, consider Jayden Daniels. Now, in our draft strategy episode, we talked about banking on higher floor, late round quarterbacks so that we can stack our lineups with high production wide receivers and running backs early. So waiting until the 9th or the 10th round to take a quarterback. So pay attention to who drafts Jayden Daniels. There is a possibility that he gets drafted and he holds a clipboard, takes a few weeks to kind of get out there. And he does have downsides. I'm steaming him up, but that doesn't mean that there aren't flaws to his game. The first flaw is the drop in effectiveness when he's throwing off schedule. So he takes the snap and he gets a quick read and he fires the ball. And of course, he had help in Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Nabers. So that made life a lot easier for him. But if those guys weren't open, which most of the time they were, and he had to scramble, he didn't throw the ball very well in that kind of scrambled drill kind of thing. When he's under pressure, his production tends to suffer in the passing game. And I think that's why he ran so much at LSU. One read, flash, and now you go. And I think that was kind of the game plan. The second flaw in his game is his determination to create contact out in the open field. He doesn't slide. He takes people head on. He doesn't run out of bounds. He doesn't slide underneath people. He just wants to truck people. Now, KJ Jefferson, former Arkansas quarterback, that guy's built like a Mack truck. He's 250 pounds. And I watched him take on some linebackers and really lay the wood on them. Jayden Daniels can't do that at 210 pounds. Even though he is 210 pounds, he still can't do that. So he takes guys head on. Like Richardson last season, Daniels losing time to injury this year at some point is definitely within his range of outcomes. He doesn't have an extensive injury history, but neither did Anthony Richardson. If you want Daniels, you have to have him want him. Make sure that you are drafting a replacement, whether it's whoever Jayden Daniels' backup is or a Derek Carr type, somebody to kind of buffer that if Daniels doesn't exactly hit the ground running, or if he does hit the ground running and then eventually gets hurt, kind of like what Anthony Richardson did last year. So we're looking at Jayden Daniels in the 10th, 11th, 12th round. Let everybody take Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and all those guys while you stack up your wide receivers and count on this kid's absolute ability to wreck defenses with his feet and his arm.
Yeah, and it's probably going to come in handy if he's landed with the Commanders, because we know what that offensive line looked like last year, and Sam Howell is probably still seeing ducks right now. So hopefully they can make some improvements on that O-line, and I think Jayden Daniels is in the right situation there to be able to be successful. They got a couple of young wide receivers as well. They brought in Eckler. I think they're going to, put some talent around him to succeed. So hopefully we see that. And I like what you said there. That 210-pound weigh-in was so crucial for him. That was a big day for him. And Jayden Daniels and Malik Nabers, folks, are your two guys that you should be looking at.
One more thing. about Jayden Daniels. Lots of people like to do comparable players, and Draft Sharks, pretty good website, lots of good analytics, definitely a source for preparing for your drafts. Over at Draft Sharks, they have a comp on Jayden Daniels, and that comp is Robert Griffin III. That doesn't sound outwardly like it's a great thing, but I want people to go back and remember what Robert Griffin III, RG3 did in his first 2 seasons. He was a monster, and he won me a fantasy league in a 2-quarterback league on Yahoo. So that's a pretty good comparison. If Jayden Daniels can put together that kind of production and also sustain it longer in a better system with more support than Robert Griffin III had, which that all came out this last offseason between him and I want to say Jay Gruden. They had a little tiff because RG3 was saying he didn't ever get any support. Plus he got hurt. So if Jayden Daniels can kind of navigate those little pitfalls, an RG3 season, rookie season, every single year, that's going to win you some leagues every year that you draft him.
Yep, agreed. So we dug deep here on a couple spotlights. What a good show. Let's wrap it back. Let's take it back to the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Thanks for having us on as that platform. The fantasy forecast is going strong now. You're going to continuously see Bigz and I here on this platform giving you redraft content nonstop.
Shout out Tyler. Woo pig. Go Hogs.
Yeah, Ty. Thanks for the opportunity, man. It's been a really good intro to the network, and I
had video all queued up, and then I didn't use it, so I had to throw it in there.
Yeah. Nothing but good things to say about the network. They've been so supportive. The resources they're giving us is amazing. So continue to follow us on X. I'm at FF Canuck 99, and he is at Big Boned. Biggs, got anything else to say about the show?
No, just watch it. And your brackets are toast anyway, so there's no reason to watch college basketball. Just watch us and go find us on Twitter and send us questions and DMs and things like that. Comment in this video, like and subscribe the channel. We're gonna do nothing but grow here at the Fantasy Football Advice Network. And at Big Boned FFB is me. At FF Canuck 99 is him. That's 1 N. And we're here for you, baby. We hope you win.
Yeah. And then one more thing to add in is we're the lead sponsor of the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio. So you're going to see us all around there. So please, if you're in the area, come check us out. We're going to have a lot of awesome things going on. And then get on our website, because there's a lot of awesome content there. All our podcasts, all our articles are going to be linked to that. Our Discord's in there. So if you have any advice that you want from us, that's where you'll find us. But from
and one more thing. I don't have anything else.
Yeah. From Grindberg and Bigz, this is the Fantasy Forecast on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Cheers.
We hope you win.